from the participants, getting some feedback from the participants on what they think persuading and influence means. What are the keys that they believe they need to persuade and influence people? I'd like to get their feedback.
Thank you very much. Actually, আমাদের সকল পার্টিসিপেন্ট উনি প্রশ্ন করেছেন যে আসলে আপনার কাছে পারসুয়েশন বা ইনফ্লুয়েন্স বলতে কি বুঝি আমরা। যে কেউ এটাকে প্রশ্নের উত্তর দিতে মানে প্রশ্নের উত্তর দিতে পারেন, তথাপি আপনি চ্যাট বক্সে লিখতে পারেন। মানে এটা সম্পর্কে আপনি আসলে কি মনে করছেন? এনিওয়ান?
Assalamu alaikum. I am Morshad Alam Khan. I am Senior Product Associate of Healthcare Pharma Limited. I think persuasion means convince my customer customer when I want to sell some things or sell my product by convincing him. Convincing means pursuing him. If he convince, then he agree to my product, to buy the product.
Can I replace the word convince to inform and educate?
Mr. Tony, few participants just have written in our chat box. Would you please check it?
I'm not seeing the chat box. Just bear with me. How do I? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Can you just relay that to me?
Should I read it?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. Miss Priyanka Chatterjee have written, the people whom you are trying to convince should not understand that you are trying to convince. It should be a subtle process to make them come your way.
That's correct. So I just wanted to take the word convince out of the vocabulary. I don't want, I'm trying to coach people not to use that word and think of it that way.
Okay.
And that's sort of what I was trying to relay here, that we don't use the word convince. We really probably shouldn't really use the word persuade and influence. I use those words because that's what people believe selling is. But the reality is selling isn't persuading and influencing. It's communicating and educating. So I really should strike those words out. And I think people need to strike those words out of their mind and their vocabulary. And when you talk about connecting with people and getting your message across, that's the core of what this topic is all about. The tools that we use to achieve that. Okay, here they are here. Okay, so without further ado, maybe we'll go into that, and I think the presentation will explain itself. So what we're going to be covering here really is how do we persuade and influence them? What are the techniques? And that's what our Sales Leadership Academy is all about. That's what these webinars are all about and coaching is all about. We're here to give you the tools that you need to sell more. And going forward, we're going to be giving a lot more of those tools and value to the people that join us. So without further ado, let's go into the presentation. So one of the biggest problems, just to be that's better. One of the biggest problems with a lot of communications is people try to get too much information out too quickly, and I call it they vomit on you, which means that they just blur out all the
হুম।
information all at once.
আপনার স্পেসিফিকেশন কি কই? আপনি
And
ব্যক্তি হিসাবে,
does people
পজিশন
sort
হিসাবে।
of understand what I mean by that?
All right. থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ। বেসিকলি আমরা অনেক সময় এত বেশি ইনফরমেশন দেই যেন আমার কাস্টমার এত ইনফরমেশন পেয়ে মানে বমি করে দেওয়ার মতো অবস্থা আর কি। এই বিষয়টাকেই একটু বোঝানোর চেষ্টা করা হয়েছে। আমরা যারা আসলে এখানে উপরে একটু আঁকাআঁকি করছি, একটু না করলে সুবিধা হবে যে যিনি করেছেন একটু মুছে ফেললে ভালো হবে। ওকে, মিস্টার টনি, would you please close your presentation slides and run it again?
Was that me? Why did I just wanted to know what happened there?
Because few participants try to annotate. That's
Okay.
why I'm asking for it. So right now you can share again. Yes, ma'am, we will do it.
Can you see that?
No.
Just bear with me. What's happened here? I'm not sure what's happened. Are you there?
No.
Bear with me. We've had a bit of a glitch.
Share.
Just bear with me.
Right now it's trying to showing your
Can
screen.
you now see
Yes.
that? Good.
Right.
Okay.
Now we see it.
So let's just recap very quickly. Step one is to make sure that you take your time in communicating your story in your presentation, that you don't give too much information all at once. It's very important that you do step by step and get confirmation and feedback from the client as you go, rather than say, we do this and we can do this and we can do that and we can do this and we can do this. And you really need to craft your presentation. Sorry, we're having a bit of problem here. My apologies. Okay, let's start again. Okay, right, I see what's happened. Are we there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
And you
We
can
see
see
a
my
presentation.
screen? Okay,
Yeah, we see a
fantastic.
presentation.
Okay, so step one in persuading and influence people is take your time. Don't spend too much information all at once. You have to craft your presentation, and building rapport. There's a technique and tools which we're going to be covering. So realistically, empathy is probably one of the best keys in selling. To understand it's their agenda, not yours. That you have to listen to your client, understand and connect with them, and show empathy towards their problems. And as we spoke about in our other conversation, where we talked about finding their problem first before we can connect, before we can solve a problem. So if you want to persuade somebody, you have to understand them first before you can understand how to persuade them. So there's a great person called Maslow was a scientist or a psychologist, and he talked about human needs, the human hierarchy and needs. So it's important to understand that too when crafting your presentation, that there are psychological needs, there are safety needs, there are belonging needs, and their esteem and self actualization needs. So the reason why I wanted to point this out is it's important to listen to your client or what his needs are, because you can't influence him with your presentation. You can't craft your presentation until you really understand where he's at. What is his needs? What are his problems? So very important skill to understand as part of the selling process. So it is all about building relationships, as you said, spend time before you get into the sale. Don't go into the sale, connect with the person. Yeah, spend time to build that relationship and find some common ground. Ask some open-ended, friendly questions. Um, you can also give a praise, which you might see uh, a picture or some artwork or possibly some styling. That's a beautiful office, or that's a beautiful shirt or tie, or you can also praise the person and make them feel good about themselves. So spend a little bit of time building a relationship. Okay? Storytelling.
Uh,
Storytelling.
Tony, can I add a little with this
Please
relationship
do.
building?
Please
Thank you so
do.
much. Thank you. Uh, in last day, just I conducted a session for 10-minute school, and that day we are trying to find out the ways of rapport building or relationship building with our clients. On that time, I shared a concept called 50-70 rule. So what it is, 50-70 rules means, just give me a moment. All right. So 50-70 rule means during your conversation, 50% time you will focus on your client eyes. It means eye contact. And 70 means 70% time during conversation you will listen your clients. So 50% for eye contact and 70% for listening. If you follow the rules in that case, your relationship building can be good or can be increased, whatever. Right? Mr. Tony, would you please unmute yourself? Tony? Please unmute yourself.
Just bear with me.
Share.
Okay. Are we back?
Yes.
Okay. So I agree with what you said. We should listen more than we talk. 100%.
Okay.
So let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, please.
Storytelling. Storytelling is a great tool. We've been conditioned from when we were cavemen, and communities throughout time have spent time telling stories. So, as part of your sales presentation, it's always important to use stories and metaphors to add color and engagement to your story. It makes your presentation more colorful and more memorable. Does everybody understand what we're talking about?
Actually, here is our storyteller. She can give some input here. Priyanka Chatterjee,
Please.
would you give input here?
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Yusuf, for that question. Yes, absolutely. Like Tony has mentioned, we have been telling stories from donkey's ears. And moment, say, I have to talk about my product or about my service. But if I'm only giving information that it increases my productivity by 400%, and if you are operating it at 30% speed, then it will do 70% more work. All these are information, and human brain is not wired to retain information or data. But moment we are packaging that information into into a story, so it's more like a glass of water, and the water is the information or the data. But to contain that information or data, we need a glass or a mug or a jar or a pitcher, and that is nothing but the story. So whenever we are presenting some bullet points in a ppt, or we are talking about data, we cannot really retain that until it is packaged in a story. So say, the same information I'm telling, that my client da 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 actually was using this particular mop, and in his house he increased his productivity so much that after that he could use that extra time to watch a movie over Netflix or Amazon Prime with his spouse or with his family. So moment I told that, I'm talking about the same mop or the same sweep, but I am packaging that through a story, which is why people will remember it much more. Please tell me if you don't agree to this. Thank you so much.
So 100%, thank you for that explanation. So you're right. So when you explain a point and you put it very, very, very precisely and well said, you know, related to a story, and people will remember more. So you talked about, let's use your productivity model, where then with that time you can do more things you enjoy, or with that time you can spend more time with your family. And so that then links, that's a linking phrase, that they relate your point to the benefit, or they can picture that in their mind more than they can a bullet point. So that was very well said, and it does it does back up on what we're talking about. So, yeah, we talked about that, building a connection and spending time and energy. It's not just about business. And that's where that persuasion and influencing people are. You can't do any of that without building that connection. So it is very important to spend that bit of time and build that connection. And you do that through stories and anecdotes and metaphors, and then going off topic and then coming back to topic. So you really have to craft your presentation purposely going off topic and then purposely coming back to topic. And it makes your whole communications more engaging and memorable. So we're going to talk about body language and mirroring. And I suppose mirroring and body language can be very confusing to a lot of people. So we're going to try to simplify it. And what the calibration is talking about is we like to deal with people like ourselves. So when you're dealing with somebody, if you want to influence them, you have to mirror them. So copy their body language. And if they copy their body language, they're going to feel more comfortable with you and then more likely to buy or agree to your product. So let's break that down.
Mr. Tony, would
So
you please give one or two examples for mirroring the body language?
Yep, we're going to do that in a second. Just let me put that down here. Okay.
Sure.
So have a look here, this little slide here. 7% of what you say is what people are going to remember. That's how important the presentation and how you craft your presentation. And it's the tone and the physiology is what we're talking about right here. So the physiology is the mirroring. So let me give you an example. Posture, how people sit. If people are sitting upright like this, well, then you try to mirror them. If people are relaxed and going like this, well, then you try to be more relaxed. Okay. Breathing is a very subtle thing. Some people are heavy breathers, some people are light breathers. But once again, we try to see if we can calibrate their breathing. So when they're breathing in, you're breathing in. And when they're breathing out, you're breathing out. That's how scientific this is. And then we talk about tone and pitch. So if they have a high tone or high pitch, well, then your conversation should be high tone or high pitch. Tempo, if they like to talk slow and take their time, well, then we need to talk slow and take our time in our presentation. Because if we go too fast, they're not going to feel comfortable. And then the same with volume, same thing. You know, if they're a loudspeaker or just a really soft speaker, well, then we have to adjust our volume of speech. And that's what we call mirroring. Mirroring is exactly what it says, copy the person.
Right. Thank you so much. One of our participants just tried to know it in Bangla. বেসিকলি আমাদের এখানে যে স্টেপস গুলো দেখানো হচ্ছে তার মধ্যে অন্যতম হচ্ছে যে বডি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজকে কপি করতে বলা হচ্ছে। লাইক আপনি আপনার যে ক্লায়েন্টের কাছে যাচ্ছেন, ক্লায়েন্ট আসলে যে স্টাইলটা মেনটেন করে, ওনার সাথে যদি উনি একটু রিল্যাক্স থাকে, আপনি একটু রিল্যাক্স ভাবে বসার জন্য চেষ্টা করলে তখন ওইটাকে উনি পজিটিভলি নেন। মানে ওনার সঙ্গে বেশ কিছু বিষয়কে আপনি কানেক্ট করে মুভ করাটাকে উনি প্রেফার করেন পার্টিসিপেন্টরা। এর আগে উনি যেটা বলেছেন যে স্টোরি টেলিং, সো স্টোরি টেলিং তো অলওয়েজ গুড। ইনফ্যাক্ট স্টোরি টেলিং ছাড়া কানেকশন ধরে রাখা বা ইনফ্লুয়েন্স করা খুব রিয়েলি রিয়েলি চ্যালেঞ্জিং। এই ব্যাপারগুলোই আসলে বলছেন। এবং সেখানে এখানে একটা জিনিস দেখিয়েছেন যে পারসুয়েট করার জন্য আমাদের যে ওভারঅল আসলে আমার বডি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের যে জায়গাটা, লাইক 7% কথা আসলে মানুষ মেমোরিতে রাখে, কিন্তু বাকি যে আমার 93% এটা কিন্তু আমার বডি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ। সো এই যে 93% যে বডি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, এটা আসলে অনেক বড় ইম্প্যাক্ট করে। সেখানে আপনার ড্রেস কোড, আপনার ফেশিয়াল এক্সপ্রেশন, আপনার ওভারঅল টোন, পিচ, আপনার ব্রিদিং, আপনার টেম্পো, ভলিউম অফ স্পিচ, এই জায়গাগুলো খুবই খুবই ইম্পর্টেন্ট। একটা কথা আছে 3P, এই জায়গাটা বলে 3P। 3P মিনস হচ্ছে পজ, পিচ, পেস। পেস মিনস আপনি কত দ্রুত বলছেন নাকি আস্তে বলছেন। পজ মিনস আপনার কথা বলার মধ্যে একটু ফাঁকা বা একটু দম নিচ্ছেন, রাইট? আর আরেকটা হচ্ছে পিচ। পিচ মিনস হচ্ছে যে টোন অ্যান্ড পিচ যেটাকে বলছে। পিচ মিনস হচ্ছে যে আপনি দ্রুত বলতে পারেন, জোরে বলতে পারেন, আবার লিস্ট একটা রিদমিক লাইনে বলতে পারেন, একটা টোনের যে ভেরিয়েশনটা আপনি আনতে পারেন। এই বিষয়টা বেসিক্যালি এখানে বোঝানোর চেষ্টা করা হয়েছে। বাই দ্য ওয়ে, আমরা এখানে আমাদের আজকের একটা চ্যালেঞ্জ হয়েছে